Imagine waking up one morning, scrolling through your phone, and suddenly seeing your own name splashed across global headlines, accused of penning a scandalous birthday card to one of the most infamous criminals of your generation. Now picture that same headline not only damaging your reputation, but threatening to cost you a staggering $10 billion. This is not the plot of a political thriller or a courtroom drama. This is the real-life legal battle now unfolding between former President Donald Trump and one of the world's most respected newspapers, The Wall Street Journal. At stake are not just egos and fortunes, but the very future of journalism, free speech, and the shifting balance of power between the media and those who rule the world. For over half a century, the United States has maintained one of the world's strongest legal shields for freedom of the press. The rules about defamation laws that allow someone to sue if their reputation is unfairly harmed are deliberately strict, especially when it comes to public figures. In 1964, the Supreme Court delivered a landmark decision in the case of New York Times versus Sullivan. This ruling established that, in order for a public figure like a politician or celebrity to win a defamation lawsuit, they must prove not only that the statement was false and harmful, but that the journalist or publication acted with actual malice. That means publishing something they knew was false, or recklessly disregarding whether it was true or not. This precedent set the bar incredibly high, making it very difficult for powerful individuals to silence critical reporting. The goal was to protect journalists from intimidation and preserve the public's right to know. But now, in the spring of 2024, Donald Trump has launched a lawsuit with the potential to shake these foundations. The Wall Street Journal, owned by media magnate Rupert Murdoch's News Corp, published an explosive story. They claim to have uncovered a birthday card, allegedly sent by Trump to Jeffrey Epstein back in 2003. Epstein, as the world knows, was a financier whose criminal activities shocked the globe. His conviction as a sex offender and his mysterious death in a Manhattan jail cell have kept his name in the headlines for years. According to the Journal's story, Trump's birthday card to Epstein included a nude drawing and a message reading, "May every day be another wonderful secret." The impact was immediate. Newsrooms buzzed with speculation. Political opponents seized on the story. Social media erupted, with hashtags trending and memes multiplying. Trump, for his part, responded with characteristic force. He flatly denied ever writing the letter, calling it a fake, and declaring, "I have never drawn a picture in my life. It's not my language. It's not my words." His legal team moved quickly, filing a defamation suit in a Florida federal court, not only naming the Wall Street Journal, but also its parent companies, Rupert Murdoch himself, and the two reporters responsible for the article. Why is this case so significant? The answer goes far beyond a single scandalous letter. What is really at stake is the credibility of major news organizations, the ability of the press to investigate the powerful, and the boundaries of free speech in American democracy. As First Amendment attorney Damon Dunn explains, Trump must prove not just that the Journal got it wrong, but that they knew it was false, or simply did not care about the truth. This is a nearly impossible legal standard, one that has protected journalists from countless lawsuits over the decades. And yet, Trump's legal team is undeterred. They are demanding an eye-watering $10 billion in damages, a figure that dwarfs almost every prior defamation award in American history. According to Jesse Gesson, a prominent defamation lawyer, this number is astronomical. Typical defamation awards in the United States rarely exceed several million dollars. Trump's demand is as much about grabbing headlines and intimidating the press as it is about any real legal remedy. The Journal, for its part, stands by its reporting. A spokesperson for Dow Jones, the Journal's parent company, declared, "We have full confidence in the rigor and accuracy of our reporting and will vigorously defend against any lawsuit." Legal observers agree that the stakes could not be higher. If Trump wins, the victory could send a chill through newsrooms across the country, making editors and reporters think twice before publishing stories critical of those in power. If the Journal prevails, it could invigorate investigative journalism, reinforcing the right of the media to dig deep into the affairs of public figures, no matter how wealthy or influential. But the story does not end there. In fact, Trump's decision to sue the press may open a Pandora's box of its own. Legal experts like Chris Mattei, a former federal prosecutor, point out that by filing a lawsuit, Trump exposes himself to what is known as reciprocal discovery. If Trump's defense is that this was false, then any evidence suggesting he had a relationship with Epstein becomes fair game, Mattei warns. In simple terms, that means Trump could be forced to hand over documents, emails, and other records that might shed light on his past association with Epstein. He could also be required to answer questions under oath, questions he might otherwise prefer to avoid. This process, called discovery, is often the most grueling and unpredictable phase of any major lawsuit. The Wall Street Journal's legal team could request a vast array of materials, from guest lists at Mar-a-Lago to correspondence spanning decades. Imagine teams of lawyers combing through thousands of pages of calendars, flight logs, and financial records, searching for any clue that could tip the case one way or the other. If even a single piece of evidence suggests a closer relationship between Trump and Epstein, it could undermine his entire defense. On the other hand, if the journal's reporting is shown to be based on unreliable sources or shoddy fact-checking, their legal position could quickly erode. There are also broader implications for the media landscape. In recent years, lawsuits against news organizations have become more common, with powerful figures increasingly willing to use the courts to fight unflattering coverage. In the past decade alone, the United States has seen a handful of high-profile defamation cases, but most have ended in settlements or dismissals, with only a tiny fraction resulting in significant damages. The so-called actual malice standard remains a nearly insurmountable barrier for most plaintiffs. But the threat of litigation, especially with eye-popping damage demands, can have a chilling effect on investigative reporting. The Trump versus Wall Street Journal case is not happening in a vacuum. In fact, it is part of a much larger debate about the role of media in a democracy, the responsibilities of journalists, and the rights of public figures to defend their reputations. In recent years, the rise of social media and the 24-hour news cycle have dramatically changed the way information and misinformation spreads. Headlines travel at the speed of light, and a story that starts in one publication can quickly become a global phenomenon. With so much at stake, both sides are preparing for a long and bitter fight. Let's break down the possible outcomes. If the Wall Street Journal wins, it would reinforce the legal protections that allow journalists to investigate and report on public figures without fear of crippling lawsuits. This could embolden reporters to pursue even more aggressive investigations, knowing that the courts will back their right to publish stories of public interest, even if those stories are uncomfortable for the powerful. As Ted Boutrous, another First Amendment attorney, puts it, a victory for the journal would be a victory for democracy itself. On the other hand, if Trump prevails, even partially, it could send shockwaves through the media industry. Editors and reporters might become more cautious, fearing expensive lawsuits and the risk of personal liability. Some stories might never see the light of day, as newsrooms weigh the potential legal costs against the public's right to know. Law professor Carl Tobias warns, Trump's legal actions threaten to undermine the First Amendment by chilling media coverage. The press must be free to hold the powerful accountable. But there is another, even more unpredictable outcome. The possibility that the discovery process itself could drag more secrets about Epstein's network into the open. The Epstein files have already cast a long shadow over American politics, with speculation about who knew what and when, enduring long after his death. If Trump's lawsuit forces new documents or testimony into the public record, it could have far-reaching consequences, not only for Trump, but for many other high-profile individuals whose names have surfaced in connection with Epstein. In this sense, the lawsuit is a double-edged sword. It could clear Trump's name, or it could backfire spectacularly, revealing more than he ever intended. Let's not forget the international dimension. The Wall Street Journal is not just an American newspaper. It is a global institution, read by political and business leaders in every corner of the world. A legal battle of this magnitude sends a message far beyond U.S. borders. In countries where press freedom is already under threat, a Trump victory could be cited as justification for further crackdowns. Conversely, a strong defense of journalistic rights in the United States could inspire reporters and editors fighting for truth and transparency worldwide. So where does this leave you, the viewer? First, it is a vivid illustration of just how delicate the balance is between free speech and responsible reporting. Defamation law is not just an arcane tool for celebrities and politicians. It is the front line in the battle over truth itself. Every time you read a headline about a public figure, remember that it is shaped by decades of legal precedent, the courage of editors, and sometimes the willingness of sources to testify under oath. For journalists, this case is a masterclass in the risks and rewards of investigative reporting. The pressure to break big stories is enormous, but so is the responsibility to get the facts right. In the digital age, a single error can go viral in minutes, with consequences that last for years. News organizations must balance the public's right to know against the rights of individuals to protect their reputations, a challenge that grows more complex with every passing year. For policymakers and citizens, Trump's lawsuit is a wake-up call. As the lines between news, opinion, and propaganda blur, it has never been more important to understand how information is created, verified, and disseminated. The mechanics of defamation law, the realities of media economics, and the pressures facing journalists are all part of the broader ecosystem that shapes what you see, hear, and believe. Consider also the role of settlements in high-stakes media lawsuits. In many cases, the parties agree to resolve their disputes in private, with financial compensation or a quiet retraction. This allows both sides to avoid a public trial, one that could expose embarrassing secrets or spark further controversy. But such settlements often leave the bigger questions unresolved. What is the truth? Who is responsible for misinformation? And how do we balance the rights of the individual against the needs of society? It is worth noting that Donald Trump is no stranger to media lawsuits. Over the years, he has threatened or filed legal action against major networks like ABC and CBS, as well as individual journalists. Most of these cases ended in settlements or were dismissed, but they set a pattern for how Trump deals with unfavorable press. His current demand for $10 billion is not only unprecedented in its size, but also in its potential to reshape the boundaries of acceptable reporting. Legal analysts like Eli Honig point out that Trump's approach may ultimately backfire. By suing, he is walking himself into a scenario where his relationship with Epstein will be questioned under oath. That is a risk most public figures would avoid at all costs. Let's look at some historical parallels. In the 20th century, powerful figures from politicians to business magnates have tried to use the courts to silence critical reporting. Sometimes they succeeded in winning damages, but more often, their lawsuits drew even more attention to the original allegations. The so-called Streisand effect, named after singer Barbra Streisand's failed attempt to suppress photographs of her home, reminds us that efforts to censor the press can backfire spectacularly, bringing more scrutiny and public interest than the original story ever could. The Trump lawsuit also reignites debate about the notorious Epstein files. For years, there have been rumors and conspiracy theories about who was implicated in Epstein's social circle. The Department of Justice, under Attorney General William Barr, concluded that there was no evidence of a secret client list or blackmail operation. Yet, public trust remains low, and many Americans believe the full story about Epstein has not yet come to light. The Wall Street Journal's reporting, whether correct or not, taps into these anxieties, raising questions about the responsibilities of the media when dealing with explosive allegations. As the legal chess match begins, both Trump and the Journal are preparing for a protracted battle. The initial phase, motions to dismiss, requests for discovery, and pre-trial maneuvering, could take months or even years. Legal experts estimate that the discovery process alone could last half a year or longer, as each side fights to control what information is revealed and what remains hidden. The costs, both financial and reputational, are enormous. But the outcome will not just be determined in a courtroom. The court of public opinion plays a crucial role in shaping the narratives that emerge from high-profile cases like this. Public trust in institutions, whether the media, the judiciary, or political leaders, has been eroding for years. Surveys show that Americans are more skeptical than ever of both journalists and politicians. In this environment, even a clear legal victory may not restore confidence in the facts. Instead, each side is likely to claim vindication, fueling further polarization and distrust. So what can you do as a consumer of news? First, approach every story with healthy skepticism. Ask yourself, who is reporting this? What evidence do they provide? Are there credible sources on both sides? Try to distinguish between facts, opinions, and speculations. Second, support high-quality journalism news organizations that invest in thorough fact-checking, transparency, and accountability. Finally, remember that the battle for truth is never over. It is fought every day, not just in courtrooms, but in newsrooms, classrooms, and living rooms around the world. As the Trump versus Wall Street Journal lawsuit unfolds, it serves as a stark reminder of the fragile balance between the right to know and the right to protect one's reputation. It is a test not only for the individuals involved, but for the entire system of checks and balances that underpins democracy. Will this be the moment when the rules for journalism and political power are rewritten? Or will it reaffirm the principles that have protected free speech for generations? The answer, as always, will depend not just on what happens in court, but on how we, as a society, choose to value truth, transparency, and accountability. If the Wall Street Journal stands its ground and prevails, we could witness a new era of fearless reporting, one in which journalists are empowered to investigate even the most sensitive topics without fear of reprisal. If Trump manages to force a concession or win even a partial victory, it could embolden other powerful figures to use the courts as a weapon against the press, making it harder for the public to get the full story. And hovering over it all is the knowledge that, in the age of social media, every court battle is also a battle for hearts and minds. The real outcome may be determined not by judges or juries, but by you, the reader, the viewer, the citizen. Your trust, your skepticism, and your demand for accountability are what will ultimately decide the future of media, politics, and the pursuit of truth. If you want to follow this legal drama as it unfolds, be sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell. We will keep bringing you the global stories that shape not just the headlines, but the power structures behind them. And let us know in the comments, do you believe lawsuits like this protect the truth, or do they endanger it? What should be the limits of free speech, and who gets to draw the line? Your voice matters in this debate. Until next time.